I've heard people call Pretty Woman a Cinderella story for years, and I understand why. It has the romance, the makeover, the fairy tale ending, but every time I watch it, I come away with a completely different message. Hello, I'm Mila Halasha. Welcome. Here we make films work for your success, and today we're talking about Vivian from Pretty Woman. I always felt that one of the reasons great films stay with us is that everyone sees something different in them. The film doesn't change, we do. As we grow, we notice different things, ask different questions, and connect with the different characters. For me, Pretty Woman has never really been a modern Cinderella story. I've always seen it as something much deeper. It's about how people regain faith in themselves. When we are children, we don't spend much time thinking about what's realistic. We believe we can become anything. Then, somewhere along the way, we start hearing things like, that's not for people like you. Be realistic. People like us don't do that. At first, they're just opinions. But after hearing them enough times, they stop sounding like opinions. They start sounding like the truth. And eventually, we stop asking whether they're true at all. We simply build our lives around them. What fascinates me is what happens when someone enters a completely different environment. Suddenly, the rules change. Things that seemed impossible before become completely normal. The beliefs that once felt unquestionable no longer make sense. And it makes you wonder, were those limits ever real, or were they simply the product of the world we happen to be living in? That's exactly what I see in Vivian's story. Vivian doesn't believe she is capable of more, not because she isn't intelligent, not because she lacks potential, but because everything she's experienced has taught her that this is simply who she is. She talks about trying different jobs. None of them allowed her to survive. This is the only life that has worked for her. So why would she believe there is another option? Then Edward comes into her life. Yes, he introduces her to a completely different world, but I don't think the hotels, the clothes, or the money are what change her. What changes her is something much more subtle. For the first time, she finds herself in an environment where people begin to see her differently. She is treated with respect. She is expected to learn. She is expected to belong. And when enough people respond to you in a different way, something inside you begins to shift. You start asking a question you never asked before. What if they're seeing something in me that I've never allowed myself to see? What's interesting is that Vivian's potential never changes. The only thing that changes is the context, the environment, the expectations, and eventually the way she sees herself. That's why she decides to go back to school. That's why she starts thinking about a different future. And later, she encourages Kate to believe she can have more too. She isn't just living in a different world anymore. She's carrying a different belief about herself. I think this happens far more often than we realize. Sometimes it isn't talent that changes a person's life. Sometimes it isn't opportunity. Sometimes it's simply experiencing a place where different possibilities feel normal. A teacher who expects more from you, a manager who trusts you with responsibility, a friend who sees potential you've stopped noticing, or a new environment that quietly challenges everything you thought was impossible. Not because it gives you new abilities, but because it gives you permission to question the limits you've accepted for years. Maybe that's why Pretty Woman has never felt like a Cinderella story to me. It's a story about how the right environment can change the way you see yourself. Not because it changes who you are, but because it reminds you that who you thought you were was never the whole story. I'll see you in the next video.